For the fun facts with scientific notation, it asks us to convert each number in standard notation, that means it's in regular number form, into scientific. And hopefully by now you're starting to see anytime it asks for scientific, that means something times 10 to a power. So for example, let's read the first one. It says an amazing 250 million Americans are now subscribers to some sort of cell phone plan. So we would need to take this number and turn it into scientific notation. Remember to do that. Our rule has not changed. You put the decimal behind the first number that's not a 0, and we read left to right. So if I look at these. The first number I come to that's not a 0 is the 2. So I put the decimal right behind it. Because this is a large number, I count from the very end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to write the 8 right here. My strategy is to write that number down so I do not forget what it is. And so now I'm ready to write it in that scientific notation. I keep everything that's not a 0. So 2.5, because I've moved my decimal. It's in between the 2 and the 5. It's always times 10. And it's going to be a positive 8. Hopefully you realize, because this is a big number, it would be a positive 8. And you're going to do that for each one of these on this side. You're going to read the statistic, and I would like you to read them. They're pretty interesting. And then turn the numbers into scientific notation. Be very careful when you come down here to 9 and 10. These numbers, you still turn them into scientific notation. But remember, if you read from left to right, our decimal has to go behind the first number that you come to that's not a 0. So in this case, it says the size of a human red blood cell is, well, let's see, tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, millions. It's 8 millionths of an inch. So that means, let's turn this into scientific notation. The first number I come to when I read left to right is the 8. So I put the decimal behind the 8. And since I know where to start, I start right here and I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 6. We move 6 times. So when I go down here to write it, I'm going to have 8, always times 10. There's no other numbers with it. And be careful, this was a small number, so I have to make it into a -6. So then you flip over to the back side, and it tells us to choose 6 problems to complete. So basically, you're going to read each one, and it's going to tell you to either write, like number 1 says there are about 25.4 millimeters in 1 inch. Write this in scientific notation. That means write it as something times 10 to a power. Whereas some of them, like number 4, it says the speed of light is about 1.86 times 10 to the 5th miles per second. Write this in standard. So that's where we would put our number. And we remember how on a number line, positives are to the right, negatives to the left. So if I have a positive 5, I need to move my decimal 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I always put an arrow so that I know my new decimal's here. It's no longer up there. And I fill in my empty spots with a 0, and I would have 186 and 3 zeros, 186,000. So you'll need to choose 6 problems to complete on this side.